The resistance, one is financial. I mean, that was clearly a big one. Like, can I do this? Will it work? Will people pay me? Will I find customers? Because for me, this was 180 degrees. I wasn't stepping out of a corporate career and doing something that, was within that same area. I was taking a 180 degree turn. So it was literally starting over from scratch and doing that. So I think there's always the fear of, will it sell? Can I make money at this? Will people actually buy?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to View from the Top podcast, where we help family first business owners and entrepreneurs get through the valleys and up the mountain to their very own view from the top. Sure glad you're all listening in today. My name is Kevin, also known as Wally, and I've got Big A, Aaron Walker, with me today as the host of the show. Welcome, Big A.
Wally, I got to be honest with you, man. My heart is pounding right now. I just got back from lunch with a buddy of mine. You have to excuse me, but my heart is just like pounding. He bought a new Tesla, and he took me for a ride in it. I've not been in a Tesla. I got a bunch of buddies that, Kevin, have you been in a Tesla? I mean, have you ridden in one yet?
I've been in a Tesla one time, and I think I know what you're going to say, but I'll let you say it.
Well, what I was going to say, it surprised me. First of all, a lot of you've got Teslas or you've ridden in them, so I'm late to the game. But we went and ate lunch, and he said, "Hey, Big A, come here. I got to show you something I bought." And he showed me, and he said, "You got time to go for a ride?" And I said, "Yeah." So we're in downtown Nashville at Pinewood Social, and we jump on I-40. And when we get in the car, like, he didn't start it. Like, there was nothing, there was no key. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. And then he clicks the little lever and we go in reverse and there's no sound. It's just like sitting at home in my den. And I'm like, this is a little strange. No dash, it's got that 24-inch iPad that's up on the, and so we pull out, and Kevin, he hit the accelerator when we hit I-40 ramp, and it pinned me to the seat. It was surreal because I'm used to being in like a Corvette or something that's really loud. And this thing has no transmission, and he hits the accelerator, and I'm like doing 60 in like 2.5 seconds.
That's fast.
And we're going around that curve, and we jump on the interstate, and then he clicks another button twice. I said, "What was that?" He let go of the steering wheel. I said, "Dude, what are you doing?" He said, "It's going to drive us." And I'm like, we're flying. This thing's driving itself. So anyway, what is some of your favorite fast cars? Like, this was really cool, and I've got others that I've experienced, but this just happened about an hour ago, and I'm a little amped up about it.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. I had an opportunity to ride I don't own one, but I had an opportunity to ride in a Tesla a couple of years ago. Same experience. It's just like the quietness is so awkward. I get kind of freaked out with Teslas, frankly, just being beside me on the road because I can't hear them, Right. And and so that same experience of just the torque, the quick takeoff, and just being pinned to your seat. And I do like fast cars. I've had the opportunity. I don't know if you've ever done this before, but I'm not sure they still do it. But there's this place in Vegas called Exotic Racing, and you can go and pay a few $100. And man, I got to race I was in a Lamborghini Superleggera, and got to race that around the track, like drive it. And the best one was the Ferrari Italia. And oh my gosh, that leather smelled so good. It was so fast.
I can't imagine. I've never driven either of those. I'm going to have to do that. We drove those trucks that you go over the jumps. A couple of my clients, I met them in Las Vegas, and we went to that same place, and right behind it, there's these trucks, these big, huge trucks.
Oh, yeah. Okay, like the off-road trucks.
The off-road trucks. I was scared to death, man. They strapped me in that thing, and I had a driver, a guy sitting beside me, and he told me when to accelerate. Man, I accelerated. I went over that jump, and I saw nothing but sky. There was nothing. I was like, oh, my gosh, please let me hit the ground soon. And we did that. Man, it's some crazy stuff. Cool. But
I've decided that renting those and having those close, low-cost experiences are way better than, for me anyway, way better than owning one at the moment. I bought a couple of years ago, I bought a GT50 Mustang convertible. That's been our kind of fun car with Sonia and I. But
I know you took out of my driveway the other day, and I
it's
thought
loud.
the racetrack had. I know you took
It's
off
loud.
like a
It's
rocket.
awesome. I love it. I love it. It's no Tesla, and I don't have the Lamborghini payment, so I'm good.
There you go. Well, you've got an awesome car, and I've ridden in it too. It's really, really fun. Listen, we could talk all day on fast cars because I love fast cars. Everybody that's been around me knows for any length of time, my dream car is one of those new mid-engine Corvettes. One of these days, maybe I'm going to get one. But in the meantime, I like having friends with nice, fast cars, and I'll just go riding with them sometimes. Hey, what about our guest today, Rocky Lavani? I mean, is he not a champion of champion guys?
Yeah, he's a good dude, man. We're really you guys are gonna enjoy this episode today. He's going to talk us a little bit about what I thought was really intriguing. I had a similar experience, but nothing like the success that he had when he transitioned, when he moved from being in the corporate world to owning his own business. And then he talks in there too about not just moving from corporate to owning his own business, but also, I didn't realize this till today, and I've known Rocky for a long time. I didn't realize the difference from, switching from really one industry or market stack to a different industry market stack. Like it isn't what he always did before. And I didn't realize that. I thought it was really interesting.
He was talking about it's 180 degrees difference from what he was doing. And I thought it was really cool that he really peeled the layers back and told us the transition, some of his fear and anxiety, the decision, how long it took him to make that, had 2 kids at home at the time. He did it a little later in life too. A lot of the people do it sooner. Rocky's mid-50s now, and this was back in 2019. So, he was at a point where he was ready for a big change, and he made a big change. And you have to listen to the interview to hear what happened. Like he was scared he wasn't going to get any clients, and then just a short period of time after that, the success that he had. He really shares a lot of good information. So be sure to stay to the end. I think it'll be worth your time.
All right, let's get Rocky in here.
Hey, Rocky, how's it going today? Hope you're doing well.
Doing well, Big A. Excited to be here with you today.
Well, thanks for being with us on View from the Top podcast. And Kevin and I always talk about the lineup and who we want. And obviously, you're right at the top of the list. And there's a number of reasons why. We'll get into that in a few minutes. But for those that are unfamiliar with Rocky, and your business, tell us a little bit more about you.
Sure. So I'm an immigrant to the United States. I came here when I was a little kid, 2 years old from India. My parents were starting over in life. And at that point, they were pretty much around their early 40s. So I know for me, like starting over in life at 40 would be kind of a major transition, especially taking a step back. When we came here, they weren't allowed to bring a lot of cash. And so we lived on the wrong side of the tracks, which I know you're familiar with. But very quickly, they were able to move up the economic ladder and to have a little bit of success with that. And then unfortunately, when I was about 6 years old, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. And I think within a year after that, she had passed away. So my dad is, early 40s, actually then he's probably mid 40s, right? 7-year-old kid. And that was the early 70s going into a recession. So, but he made the right commitments and choices to help raise me. And when they came over, a lot of their friends also came over. And what I just thought was natural, I realized much later in life was kind of unique. They would get together and talk about money in life. So, if somebody got a new job, they would ask them, how much are you making? Somebody bought a new car, they'd be like, well, how much did you spend? How much did you discount? And so because of that, I learned finances just always growing up. I just learned the concepts of money, and I assumed everyone else did. And it wasn't until much later in life that I realized most people don't have very much of a financial background. As with all immigrants, encouraged to go to school, get a good job, get a, advanced degree and do all of that. So I kind of followed that path and did what I was told. And, because I had a good financial background, it allowed me to build wealth, got into corporate, did well in corporate, made a lot of money. And then I was like, okay, what do I really want to do in life? Because this is what I've been told to do. What is that? And a big part of it was just helping people with finances. So I started on the side helping with personal finances. And then I came to learn that business owners weren't looking at their finances. I'm like, how do you run a business and not understand the business of business? And so that kind of made my last pivot. And as part of that, I joined with Profit First. And that's what I do today is work with small business owners and help them with their numbers.
Rocky, let's back up just for a second. You said something pretty important I don't want people to miss. You said, I woke up one day and I realized that I had been doing something that somebody else expected me to do. Like, where were you at in that journey? Did you have children? Were the children gone at that point? Like, when did you make a conscious decision to do what Rocky wanted to do?
So I think there's two parts to that, right? On the one part, I had kids. I made a conscious decision that I wanted to be a dad to my kids, just like my dad had made for me. So I wanted time flexibility. And I also wanted financial, just the ability to make at least enough to live a decent life. I think this was more towards the probably at that point, late 40s of saying, hey, I've made all this money, but it didn't bring me all the happiness it was supposed to. It didn't bring me what we're told is going to happen.
Did you realize that along the way? Was this a revelation at some point? Because I kind of walked through that journey with you. I saw that unfold. And so I want you to share with the audience, what was the epiphany? Like, when was the moment you said, hey, I've been living this life? Because a lot of our listeners today are practicing in occupations that they feel trapped. They got the golden handcuffs. They don't enjoy what they're doing. How did you make a conscious decision to get out and leave that corporate space?
So I think that was much later in the journey, right? This whole decision and this whole process was years in the making. So this was not like overnight, epiphany and make a decision. It took quite a while, I think. And part of that is, I know for me, sometimes I need a swift kick to get moving, right? And a lot of times maybe we all do. Sure. And I think part of that came in the workforce where the corporate job became uncomfortable. And I had known for a long time that I was on a sinking ship, right? I was just like, hey, how long can I ride this wave? And then what happened was it got to the point where it's like, oh, we're really sinking fast now. So the choice is, do you hop somewhere else, knowing that it's not going to be safe ground? They're going to sink too, just because of changes in the industry. Or do I go out and do what I really wanted to do? And part of the decision making there was, at this point I'm older, right? I'm in my mid 50s now. If I wait 5 years to do this, how many regrets will I have had for waiting?
How many regrets do you have that you didn't do it sooner?
I've thought about that. I think there's regrets of not doing it a lot sooner. But I think there's a middle part where I realized that what I would have to give up for that. In that kind of balance of being able to still be there with the kids and have that kind of time frame. Yeah, there's always those regrets of I should have done it sooner, but at the same point, you got to let go of those, right?
Yeah, you can't hold on to them.
You can't hold on to it.
You want to live there.
You want to live and you want to do the other thing. So I think overall it was good.
How old were your children when this happened? Not before you made the transition, before you realized, hey, there may be something I want to do different. How old were your children at that time?
When I realized I wanted to do something, they weren't teenagers yet. So like 9, 10, 11 in that zone. And I didn't hop and I didn't walk away until one was in college and one was his senior year in high school. And so it was much later that I left. And the good thing about that was I then had time freedom because the kids were pretty much out of the house. So then, starting a business takes time and effort. It's not easy. And that gave me the time freedom to do that.
Was Dolly on board? Dolly, now you've been married, 27, 28 years?
27 roughly? Years. So, yeah. So for 20 years, I'm telling my wife to quit her job and start her own business.
Right.
And she just kept saying no, 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 because that was the original plan. She would start the business and then I would follow her. And she just never did it. And so finally I went to her and said, well, can I quit and start a business? And she said, sure, go do it. So she was 100% on board. She was there to support it. And because we had built up the finances, when you used to yell at me, you like, you got too long a ramp. I'm like, yeah, I know, but that's okay.
Hey, Rocky, you talk about that period of time? It takes a while to start a business. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. But during that transition period, but even if it was mental from, I have this corporate job, things are going well, making a great living, but I still have this thing that's not settling well in me that I want to go do something on my own and have more freedom, flexibility, the benefits of being a small business owner. What were some of the things that were resistant to you? Like what was some of that resistance that was stopping you from maybe stepping out and taking some action a little sooner?
The resistance, one is financial. I mean, that was clearly a big one. Like, can I do this? Will it work? Will people pay me? Will I find customers? Because for me, this was 180 degrees. I wasn't stepping out of a corporate career and doing something that, was within that same area. I was taking a 180-degree turn. So it was literally starting over from scratch and doing that. So I think there's always the fear of, will it sell? Can I make money at this? Will people actually buy?
Rocky, I remember week after week, month after month, you're in Sharpens Iron Mastermind. You've been a member for years and years and years, a very faithful, dedicated member, even lead one of our groups. And thank you for that, by the way. You do an outstanding job. But I remember the complexities of the decision that you were making. And you went through these week after week, month after month going, can I make this amount of money? Will it work? Do you guys think I've got what it takes? Can I go out and drum up business? And that was a grueling process going through that. And I remember one of the wins shortly thereafter, you came and you said, hey, I've got to make some modifications here. I got so many people, I can't even service them all. And we started laughing. We said, Rocky, listen, you went from scared to death to you've got too many people. And what are you going to do with all these people? Take us through that journey a little bit with Dolly, within yourself. What was going on at home during this time, the conversations that y'all were having around making that transition?
My wife pretty much left me alone during that whole time. So there was a big hiccup in the middle of this, right? So I left my job in August of 19. And it was a 6 months from the time I decided to leave my job to when I actually left my job. We had to get a whole bunch of things in place, health insurance, car, like I had a company car. They handed me everything. I had all these very nice perks. So it was the transition to walk away from that. I start in August of 19 and literally I just got out and started networking like crazy. Well, y'all remember what happened 6 months later.
Oh, yeah.
I was at Podcast Movement. I was sitting outside the gates of Disney in March of 2020 and literally overnight the world shut down. And so all the people that I was networking with, all of that kind of shut down because a lot of the people I was talking to were bankers and people in finance. Well, they were so busy with PPP and EIDL and just that the world changed. And then in that moment, at the same time that the physical world kind of shut down, the online world took off. And so I literally pivoted overnight. My calendar cleared and refilled with new opportunities. So you got to pivot in those moments. And so I pivoted and I just kept going. And that actually, I think, was a benefit to me because it took my reach much, much wider, gave me a lot more people to connect with and meet with. And so that was the case. Now, I'll be honest, when I started this business, just from watching and talking to other people, because I spent a lot of time talking to people before I made the move, I was told it takes 3 years. Your first year, you're going to make hardly any money. Be prepared for that. Year 2, you're going to start to see cash. And year 3 is really when things are going to turn around and take off.
And here we are, 2022, and it's followed suit.
It followed suit. Yeah. I think my business really started taking off in mid 2021. And then from there on, it's just been skyrocketing.
Rocky, you're so consistent. I've watched you really up close doing the steps, doing the task. You do the work, right? Mm-hmm. What advice would you give the listeners if they were in the corporate space, they were contemplating a move? What would be 1 or 2 steps that you think maybe you could have done differently, maybe you could have done better if you had a do-over?
So I think that the one big step is take the time to do the research while someone else is paying you, right? You're in a corporate job. Figure out what is it that you really want to do and see that other people are paying for that, right? It's a lot easier to sell when there's already an expressed need. So make sure that's the first thing. I think do the math up front to make sure it's doable. And the second thing, and I think this is the mistake I see a lot of people make, they don't build up the cash to take them through that lull. Because again, for a year and a half, there really wasn't cash coming in the door.
Yeah.
Right. And the bills are still there. Right. At that point, I had 2 kids in college. So 2 kids in college, how does that cash flow work? Yeah. How do we adjust our lifestyle to be able to get through that slump and be able to do it?
Rocky, I'm seeing a real common theme with highly successful people here. I know another guy that's a good friend that learned to write code in a mop closet of a place that he used to work in. So seeing a real constant theme here of guys doing the research and doing their due diligence early, which is really a great thing. It's like, don't jump into this thing. Don't sever it until you understand exactly what it is ahead of you. So that's pretty cool. Hey, I want to brag on your kids for a minute also. I mean, you've got some of the smartest kids on the planet. So you and Dolly did a great job. I mean, these kids like build robots, and I tease and say they're bomb scientists. I mean, these kids are really sharp. So you and Dolly did a really good job. So you've pivoted now. Now you're authorized by Profit First, Mike Michalowicz. He's done a really good job. And this is flipping the accounting upside down, right? A lot of people are going to hear this interview for the first time regarding Profit First. Why don't you take us there? Let us know how you got involved with Profit First and give us an overview of what Profit First is.
So when I sat down and decided to make that leap from the company, I decided I was going to work in business finance. I went out and looked at what are the different systems that are out there? What are the different opportunities that I could work with? Or do I build it myself? And I realized if I was going to build it myself, meaning all of the deliverables for the clients and all of that, it would take a lot of work, and it would be work that I didn't enjoy doing. And after evaluating all the different systems, I really connected with Mike because when I looked at how I wanted to serve clients, I saw that was a good match for me. And 2, what Mike talks about and the way that the Profit First system works, I was like, I've been doing this my whole life, right? I've been paying myself first. I pull my profit off the top. So I was already doing this, so it was natural for me. And that's kind of why I picked Profit First. Now, the big thing behind Profit First is they switch the equation. Everyone is told in business, it's sales minus expenses equals profit. But what happens then is profit's a leftover, right? It's an afterthought. Everyone's told spend money to make money. And what Mike said is, hey, we've got the wrong equation. So he does sales minus profit equals expenses. You're all told to pay yourself first, but how many people do it, right? If you're going to be profitable and you say you're going to be profitable, are you going to swipe your profit off the top in the beginning? When I started my business, I figured out, okay, how much money do I need to make? How does that work? And you reverse engineer it backwards. So where I am today is pretty close to what my original target, my money targets were hit. The math behind how I made that money is a little bit different, but I knew what I had to do to achieve that. And that's a big part of what Profit First is. And all of what we do is figure out the math of what your business is and reverse engineer it and see if it makes sense. And so that's a big part of what we do now.
We're proponents of Profit First, and to be totally transparent, we set it up. I like it. I did it for a little bit, went through a lot of transition here. We've gone through some things with View from the Top that we're reorganizing. And I kind of set it aside just a little bit, just to be honest with you, but it's a fabulous process. Kevin, I know you're real familiar with Profit First as well. Is this something we've never really talked about that? Do you subscribe to that as well?
Yeah. What do you mean we don't talk about it? Like we don't talk about it because we don't do it like we should? No, I'm kidding. We have talked about it. It's more about, I have seen, I've seen a number of guys, including myself, before I sold my business in 19, only about 6 months before that had I moved to a Profit First scenario. And even in you would call a pretty successful high EBITDA, which means good profit situation in a SaaS company, it's still that equation of looking at sales minus profit equals expenses. That was difficult. It just was difficult to get your head wrapped around. But a number of business owners that I've seen in our network here, it's Iron Sharpens Iron or elsewhere, that have used this system. It's like, it's hard to wrap your head around it at first, but as soon as like you get it, you have that aha moment and you're like, holy smokes. Like the stress. I know Rocky probably has a million examples and stories of this because of the people he works with, but just the stress and the anxiety that like falls off people's faces when they realize that it's really just a mindset shift, and then some focus and some numbers on paper and some different bank accounts to help you get that clarity. And I'm picking on you, Big A. I know that we've used it in the past and we're using it now. You're not in the monthly meetings anymore. You're in the quarterly meetings, so you don't see it as much, but we're using it. Believe me.
Good. And, I'm glad to hear it because I love it. I think it's a great program. So
yeah, it's
Rocky. Good. What do you say to conventional bookkeepers, conventional CPAs? What are some of their arguments related to using Profit First, and how do you overcome that with them?
I think a lot of them are confused about what it is. So first of all, this is not an accounting system. So it really doesn't affect your bookkeepers or your CPAs or any of that. What this is a cash flow management system. And for most businesses, that's the issue they have, right? Cash flow management. How do I make sure I have enough cash to run the business and keep it going? And the biggest problem that I think people run into is when you've got a big pile of cash, you get a little bit lazy, you get a little bit spendy, and that's the problem. And you start spending more than you really should because all of that cash, while you think it's yours, isn't. Right? Part of it is taxes to the government. If you haven't set your taxes aside, especially for solopreneurs or people who are, in their own business, most of us have tax rates that are 40-45% by the time you pay of everything. If you haven't set that money aside in a tax account, you're going to get yourself in trouble. And then, so that I think is a big part of it. The actual numbers in the books, it really doesn't affect the bookkeeper or the accountant much. Once they understand the system, it's literally about 8 or 10 transactions a month, and they don't fuss over it once they get it. But I think that's the big thing. If you can just show up and move your money around the way it's supposed to do and give every dollar a purpose and then use it for that purpose, it works well. There's a couple of guys in ISI who, the biggest thing, and this is surprising, the biggest thing they love about Profit First is tax day. Because when their accountant says to them, you owe $100,000, they look at their account and go, I can stroke a check for $100,000. So there's no more anxiety or sleepless nights of how I'm going to pay the IRS. So that just gives them confidence, I think, and it makes them feel better from that standpoint. And if you don't owe so much in taxes, you get a bonus. So people are happy with that as well. So from that standpoint, it's kind of a win-win. Tax day no longer is a negative. It almost turns into a positive that you can handle it with ease, and sometimes you'll pick up a bonus as well. And this way you know that you're profitable and you can actually see the profit in your company because it's in a separate account. It's really there. It's not some numbers on your accountant's spreadsheet, because that's the thing people say to me. They go, I don't understand this. My accountant says I'm profitable and there's no money in the bank. Or my accountant says I'm unprofitable and there's money in the bank. Why don't these things make sense? And with this system, you can look at the bank account and say, here's my profit, here's how much I have. And it makes it easier to remove it from the company because it now has a purpose. And and the same thing goes for owner's pay. The sad truth is most small business owners aren't paying themselves appropriately. And this system allows you to put the money aside and then take the emotion out of removing it from your company because it's dedicated for your pay.
Rocky, I think I'm one of those that align with your tax preparation. It was a challenge for me. Every quarter I would go to Robin, or I would, at the end of the year, go to Robin and go, man, we got to come up with this much money to pay this much taxes. And Robin always used to say, for 43 years, Robin's been saying, why don't you do this every month? Like, why don't you just set it? It's like, that's not the way I think. And so I'm trying to get better at that. But this Profit First has allowed me to do that, to where I just set the money aside every quarter, write that check, and it doesn't feel as burdensome. And it's created a lot less arguments between me and Robin. So I don't have to go and say, hey, I got to take this much money out of our account in order to. I think about Dave Ramsey a little bit. This is like a glorified envelope system on steroids, isn't it?
It is. It's literally what Mike Michalowicz did was take the envelope system and make it useful for a business owner. And that's exactly what it is. It's the envelope system of banking that has been around for hundreds of years. And now it's put together in a system that a business owner can use those same principles to run their business. And yeah, it's just giving every dollar a job and making sure that you're putting money aside for yourself, you're putting the money aside for profit, you're putting the money aside for taxes, and you're constraining your spending. Because I think that's the biggest thing that I've noticed with business owners. They like to spend money. Like, oh, we got to spend on this and we got to spend on that. And when they see a big balance, they're more apt to do that. But when they see that smaller balance because they've put the money aside, they're less apt to do it. And the second thing that happens, and I'm sure you get this, when they see less money in the bank account, they know they got to go out and sell more. So it gives them that little bit of impetuous,
it's a great motivator.
that little bit of a motivator to get out there and do that. The biggest thing that my clients say to me 18 months out, I've never had so much cash in my business. What do we do? And I always tell them, we remove it and we create another stream of income somewhere else because we never know what's going to happen.
Rocky, I like what you said about we look in our bank account and we see that money there and we don't really know what it's appropriated for. And so we go out and overspend, then we get ourselves in trouble. There's a payday for that. You're going to find out later. At some point, it's going to catch up to you. And that's been a really cool thing there as well. Rocky, do you see any businesses that wouldn't be able to use this system?
Businesses, no. People, yes. If you're not disciplined, if you don't do it, it doesn't work. And if you overspend, it doesn't work. Like, you've got to stay within the constraints of the system. Actually, and I think the biggest success story is one of our ISI guys who used to be with us, which is Jesse Cole, Savannah Bananas. I mean, he took Profit First and put it on steroids. He's got a minor league baseball team that makes money hand over fist when most baseball teams lose money hand over fist. And he's changed the way he does business because of it. And that's what it comes down to.
It's pretty cool. Now he's going into 25 major metropolitan cities. I think HBO's picked him up now. And I'm going to call him and remind him just because he was in ISI and we taught him how to do profit first. And so now he's out doing well. We're going to take some credit. Jesse Cole, if you're listening to this at Savannah Bananas, we're going to get our credit for that. Rocky,
hey guys, hey, Big A, real quick, speaking about Jesse, I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent here, but this is pretty cool. I can't remember if it's on Hulu or Prime. I can't remember. One of the streaming services, if you look it up, you can find it. There's a series called Banana Land, and it's fantastic. It's like, I don't know how many episodes, 5, 6, 7 episodes
right.
of his whole operation and what they do. And it's pretty incredible. So quick plug for that real quick, called Banana Land.
Great shout out for Jesse. Rocky, is there anything else that you would like to add, maybe that we haven't asked you that other people could, and then maybe tell people how they can get in touch with you? We would love for them to be able to reach out and find out more about Rocky and Profit First.
Before we do that, for those of you listening, if Big A brings you value, whether it's on this or on some of his other videos and the content he puts out, would you just be nice enough to hit like? Be nice enough to maybe share this with someone else who might be able to benefit. Cool. Give him Big A likes that kind of thing. He needs that feedback.
Hey, that's a great book you've got behind you too, Rocky. I just want you to know. Hey, I want to tell a funny story about Rocky. Rocky's one of my favorite people at ISI because he calls me out. And so I talk all the time. You know, there's a joke in ISI. No, it's not a joke. It's a reality that I talk all the time. And one day there was this pause. And so I jumped right back into leading the meeting, and Rocky goes, "My Lord, if you just shut up for 5 seconds and give somebody else an opportunity to talk, somebody else may answer you." And I hugged him at PodFest for telling me that. I said, "Thank you, Rocky, for telling me the truth, man. I need to hear that." So
I think we all need to hear the truth, right? And that's literally what a mastermind does, is it helps you to hear the truth. So everything I do, I teach for free. Profit Answer Man podcast is where we teach business owners how to do what we do. You can implement this on your own. You don't need us. And we love to give it away and help people grow and thrive. And the website is profitcomesfirst.com. You can find me there and find all my contact.
Rocky, you're a great guy. You're a good friend. You're a great mastermind brother. You're an incredible business person. You've done a great job. Thank you for sharing with our audience today. And we're excited to see you back on here again soon.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Rocky.
Wow, Rocky really packed a lot of information into a short interview. That's what I like about Rocky. He's concise, he's on it. He follows the process. He does the work consistently, and that's what I so admire about him. Each and every week, I've watched him do the task in order to be successful for his dreams and his goals, and you can see that in his demeanor, that level of determination. He's just steady Eddie. He's always at it. And I want to tell you, man, if you're not convinced by now that Profit First is the way to go, you need to re-listen to this interview. And I think if you take some of the principles that he shares in Profit First, without a doubt, it'll help you get your own view from the top.
Hey, thank you so much for listening in today. As Rocky said, please be sure to subscribe. Whatever listening platform you're on right now, just click that button, subscribe, so you get notified when the new episodes come out every week, and they'll have a title with them, kind of tell you what they're about. The easiest way to continue connecting with us really is through our new weekly email called The Climb. You're going to love this thing. Like I said, it's just once a week. It's easy to digest, bite-sized topics that every small business owner, entrepreneur, husband, and father can use to give them a life of success and significance, help them live it out as they climb to their own view from the top. So check it out at viewfromthetop.com/climb. You can subscribe there for free access. Really, it's a free newsletter. So check it out. It's pretty cool. I think you're going to love it. If you don't love it, you can always easily unsubscribe, and we promise not to bug you. Thanks for listening today. We'll see you next week.